All right, here we are. We are so lucky to have, and we try to reach out to the most famous, well-known Bills fans that we can around the globe, and he's extremely humble because I can see his face now. He's smiling. He's like, "Oh, I'm not." Dude, you're on ESPN. It's Kevin Connors, everybody from ESPN. It's been a long time, at least a year since we talked last time. You look great. How you been, man?
I've been good, Bull. Thank you so much for having me on. And anytime we can talk Bills and you and I can get together and talk, it's a good day.
I love the kit, if you will.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate. My wife didn't even pick this out today. This was a Kevin Connors decision. All right.
Good call. Good call. For people that don't know, because before we started recording, you were kind of going through your checklist of things you have the next couple of days. You are all over the place, my man. So where can people see you typically?
I guess that either means that no one wants me on a full-time basis or that I'm versatile. I don't know. So tonight we're recording this on, what is it, October 16th. I'm on baseball tonight. Right now we got a lot of that going on, obviously, with the postseason in full swing. And that's a show that I do during the regular season. And then Thursdays and Saturdays, I'm in studio with college football, doing a ton of that. We've got college basketball coming up. So those worlds are all colliding. And then Sports Center, when needed on that show. So there are a lot of names and storylines kind of pinballing around in my head, but it's great and all good problems to have.
And also for people that don't know, you are not a native Western New Yorker, but you are an adopted Bills fan. So for people that don't know, where and how did your Bills relationship in terms of fandom begin?
So my dad grew up just outside of the Utica area, and he was a huge Bills fan. He was a Bills fan back in the AFL. And so I became a Bills fan. When he moved down to New York City, was working in New York City, moved out to Long Island, had me and my brothers, and I became a Bills fan growing up on Long Island. So I'm in the heart of Jets territory, number one, and obviously Giants territory. And then Super Bowl 25, it's me against the world down there. Everyone's a Giants fan. So I've kind of been fighting those battles my whole life. Now here I am in New England, and I'm a Bills fan in the middle of New England. But it's, I wear it with a great badge, and it's been amazing being able to interact with so many Bills fans on social media. That's been so cool, being able to share stories and share the ups and downs. So that's kind of the origination of where the origin of my fandom.
Hey, so in the last really 5 years, since Josh has really taken off in his career and the team has too, obviously, what have you noticed, in terms of Bills fandom in that part of the world that obviously has been Patriot dominated for a very long time? I have a lot of very close friends that are from the Boston area who I don't know who, I mean, we're a little bit more used to losing than they have been over their lifetime. But man, when they lose, man, are they bad losers. And they're not doing so hot right now. So I'd be curious if the red, white, and blue has sort of infiltrated New England a little bit more in the last 5 years.
I think before it was a little brother syndrome. Get away from me. You're bothering me. I've got the upper hand. We've got Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I think now, obviously, the past few years where the Patriots have not been relevant, there's been much more of a respect. But I'll say this. I don't know anyone that's not a Josh Allen fan. I mean, he plays the game, I think, the way any fan would want their quarterback to play. He wears it on his sleeve. Maybe sometimes he gives you more than you want out of your quarterback, some of the hits and not going out of bounds, etc. I think that there is a healthy bromance, regardless whether or not you're a Bills fan. And in New England here, there's a level of respect. Look, I mean, forever, you could hate the Patriots, and we all did, but you had to respect what they did. And I think that there's that same, maybe not that same level of respect, but there is a level of respect among Patriots fans.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets win. I mean, that was a weird game coming in. I think a lot of people thought the Jets were going to win that game with the coaching change. And, Todd Downing now is going to call the plays, and Josh coming off the worst game of his career. And it looked the Bills after those past two games like they were a little bit lost in the receiver room and yada, yada, yada. Go down the problems for those two games. But of course, the Bills in the end come out on top. And what was an interesting game, certainly from an officiating perspective beyond that, it was almost an even game between the two teams. It was kind of what I think we've all kind of been hoping for since Aaron Rodgers got in New York in terms of the competitiveness between the two teams.
I think you're spot on. I mean, both teams had double-digit penalties. Both teams, I believe, were triple-digit penalty yards in the game. You can't turn the ball over. That's one thing, and in the national discussion, I have not heard a lot of people talking about the fact Josh hasn't thrown an interception this year, Bull.
Yeah.
He has not turned the ball over through the air. I don't know that he's lost a fumble on the ground, but I know he hasn't thrown an interception. And the Jets did, and the Rodgers pass that one at the end of the game, the receiver fell down. That changes the outcome of the game, I think. Doesn't take away from the fact it was an unbelievable interception by Taron Johnson to steal it. And obviously Josh's run kind of made sure that it was a Bills win. Look, to do it without James Cook, I think Ray Davis, I think we may have seen the makings of a really good play. I don't want to say star yet, but boy, what a game he had. And the offensive line was great. I thought the defense played the secondary when you consider losing Tre'Davious and Poyer and Hyde, and to be able to defend Aaron Rodgers the way that they did. I have a massive respect for Jets fans. Again, I grew up on Long Island. I've got a lot of friends who are Jets fans. They have been almost as downtrodden a fan base as Bills fans have been. But I will say I certainly enjoy beating them as well. I thought Monday night was a lot of fun. It was wonky at the end with all the penalties and then the late turnover, but it was great to leave that game knowing we didn't have our best players on the field and we didn't play the best game that we could, and we still came away with a win.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I mean, Brees Hall had a monster game in that game that a lot of people have forgotten already. But look, I like I said, I like it when there's competition in the division. As much as I want to win by a lot and win the division every year and really not have any competition, I think it's better when there's competition for the Bills. So let's fast forward now to this week. Obviously, it's the Titans. You could argue the worst team in the league. And there's a new bill. What do you make of the Amari Cooper signing or the trade that the Bills made? I mean, the talk in Buffalo is, if nothing else, they got him for $800,000. I mean, it's bargain for a 30-year-old who 4 of the last 5 years have had 1,000-yard seasons on arguably not so good teams, albeit the Browns went to the playoffs a year ago. Still, he has been productive even as he continues to, go down that aging path.
I agree with everything you just said. I think to expect that he's going to be a number one receiver in the true sense of what that word means. I mean, he'll be WR1 on the Bills. Is he going to be one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL? I don't know that we can expect that at this point in his career, but he will be a massive upgrade at the position. I think from everything you hear, he's not a good teammate. He's a great teammate. He's a guy who's been there and done that in the league. And the biggest thing to me is, like you said, Bull, you're not taking on the Devontae Adams contract. You're not paying the bulk of it or all of it like the Jets are. You didn't give up enormous draft capital. I think it's a win-win. He seems to be a guy who's going to be a really good fit there. I still think that they need to address wide receiver, maybe with that second-round pick that they got back from Houston in the Diggs trade, if not their first-round pick, if not packaging the two of them to go get a big-time guy in the first round next year. I still think they've got to do all of those things. But for the here and now, you give Josh another significant weapon, a sure-handed guy who's a proven commodity in the league. I think it's a complete home run.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Amari Cooper now will be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with, right? So he could be in for a renaissance kind of moment for him. Shockingly, his career might even go up if he doesn't lose a step. So I think most people are excited about it. I think we're tempering our expectations. He's not going to be Justin Jefferson. He's not going to be Jamar Chase, to your point, but I think he's going to be a nice fit. Okay, I'm going to get off the Bills now because I want people to know a little bit more about Kevin Connors. And for me personally, being in the business for a long time, like there's things, for a guy like me, like my dream was to be you. Right? Like ESPN is like the dream job of dream jobs for anybody that ever wanted to be in broadcasting. So I got to ask you some fun questions about your job and sort of how you got there and things like that. So first of all, where'd you get your start in broadcasting, and what was it like to not only get the interview at ESPN? Like when you got that email or phone call, hey, we want to talk to you. What was that like? And eventually when you found out that you were going to go there and eventually be on Sports Center, I mean, mind blowing, or like what was your reaction to
Oh,
all of that?
more than you can know. I don't want to get emotional thinking about it because I will. I worked in a small independent cable news station in the Hudson Valley of New York, Bull, for 7.5 years. And I was doing things. I did a variety of things. I worked with Rollins Smith, who was a national anchor on the CBS morning show in the 1980s. A very, very distinct, was as good a broadcaster as I've ever worked with in my life. Distinguished gentleman, a gentleman in every sense of the word. And he was encouraging. I couldn't get jobs. I couldn't get interviews. And then all of a sudden, I got the opportunity at WCBS Radio in New York when Kevin Burkhardt, who was the afternoon drive guy, left to go to SNY, and then obviously, ultimately, all the incredible success he's had. And then 6 weeks into having that job with WCBS Radio, the news director at WCBS TV said, "Would you be interested in working on weekend mornings?" I mean, again, Bull, here I am. I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get a job in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I couldn't get a call back. Do I want to be on WCBS TV in New York? Yes. So I got that. I was doing both of those things. The ESPN gig, I'm skipping a lot here, but the ESPN opportunity came along. I came up here and I interviewed, and I said this before. It was like Morgan Freeman going in front of the parole board in the Shawshank Redemption at the end. I don't care if you think I belong here. I know I do. And I hope you give me the opportunity because I know I belong here. And that was 16, so going on 17 years ago. Got the gig, drove to my mom and dad's on Long Island. I was living in New Jersey at the time, told them in person it was one of the proudest moments I've ever had in my career. And to be here through, look, there've been a lot of publicized layoffs. There's been a lot of turbulence here over the years. I have always been someone that's tried to work as hard, do the best that I can without being a pain in the neck. I'm proud to have been here all these years later. It is a dream job. There's no doubt about it. The people that you get to work with, the things we get to cover, it's never lost on me. So it's everything that you would hope that it would be.
That's so cool. I love hearing that story. And if nothing else, it gives anybody that's young and in the business a reason to be optimistic, right? So I appreciate that very, very much. And I've had the great honor of being able to work with a number of kids that are sort of college age-ish, that might have gone on to get their master's at Syracuse or whatever and try and pursue. And if they're watching this, well, there you go. I mean, that is evidence of why you should work hard and be persistent and not give up. So I really appreciate that. Continuing on with you. So you mentioned Rollins Smith. Talk about, for you, if there was one or maybe more than one sports broadcaster who you really loved, who you maybe wanted to be, who you maybe pretended to be when you were practicing as a 12-year-old into a tape recorder.
I wonder if I don't still do it sometimes. Bull, I think anyone of a certain age either idolized or imitated or both Marv Albert and Bob Costas. I think that those are two of the absolute greatest to ever do it. I grew up in New York. He still does a radio show in New York City. He was the local sportscaster at WNBC TV. His name is Len Berman.
Yeah, sure.
I think Len Berman is as great a local sports broadcaster as there's ever been. I think that he was, and I got to interview him. He wrote a book one time. I got to interview him earlier in my career, and it was a huge thrill. I think he's great. And then no relation, but I've given thought to this before. It's Chris Berman, and Bull. He is everything you would want him to be. If you said to yourself, "I wish Chris Berman was like this," he's like that. I grew up watching NFL primetime on Sundays when I didn't get the Bills games locally on Long Island. So that's how I got my Bills highlights. We watched him every Sunday night when we had dinner. He's iconic. He's on the Mount Rushmore of sports broadcasters. I don't think there's any debate about that. So I would say all of those had a profound impact on my career.
I've had the great fortune of interviewing Chris Berman a number of times because he also is a massive Bills fan.
Yeah.
He's here every summer at the Jim Kelly Gala and benefit and golf tournament. And yeah, he's done my radio show in the past. And he, to your point, is exactly what he is on TV. He's a little bit tempered when he's off camera, but not much. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, no, so continuing with you, a lot of really famous people come through your building. You ever get starstruck? Anybody be like, wow, like that? That's,
Oh,
I mean, does that happen still with you? Are you still a little kid when it comes to sports?
if you're not, I think you're not doing it right. I mean, you know, I can remember walking across campus one night at like 11:30 at night, getting ready to go do a show. It's late, I'm tired, it's dark outside. I'm walking down a hallway, walk around the corner, almost literally bumped into Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson.
Right.
I did a Sports Center interview one time with Bob Knight. We taped the interview. I'm walking out of the studio with Bob Knight. Afterwards, we turn the corner. There's Jerry Rice. Me, Bob Knight, Jerry Rice, who worked for us at the time. Um, Jim Boeheim. I'm as big a Syracuse basketball fan as there is. I went into the cafeteria last year. Coach Boeheim now works for the ACC network, which ESPN owns. And I see, and we have a mutual friend. I went over to introduce myself to him, and I've met him before. No way does he remember me. And Coach Boeheim, my name is Kevin Con. I know who you are. I mean, you could have picked me up off the floor. This is Jim Boeheim. So any number of people, Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, that have come through here that I've had the fortune. Ice Cube. I got to meet Ice Cube one time. So any number of people I've been starstruck with.
That's cool. That's cool. Who's the most impressive person that you've met or covered? That's a hard question because I know you've covered a ton. But does one really, really, really stand out that maybe you get this question asked a lot and it's just a natural response?
I've given thought to that question because it's been asked of me before. Um, I worked with LaFonso Ellis in studio for about 6 years. LaFonso Ellis is a guy that grew up in East St. Louis. Dad was not in the picture. East St. Louis, from everything I know about it, it's one of the toughest places that there is. He was an exceptionally gifted basketball player, went to Notre Dame. I think he had some academic issues at Notre Dame, if I was something like that. And not only did he graduate from Notre Dame, not only did he go on to have an outstanding NBA career, which, by the way, could have been better if not for a horrific knee injury that he, had sustained and then rehabbed from and came back. And Bull, there is no nicer, finer gentleman that you could meet than LaFonso Ellis. And he's not with us anymore. And it's one of the more mystifying decisions that I would rather not even get into. But LaFonso is the nicest, kindest, most genuine individual that I've ever worked with. I love that guy, and I miss him enormously. So if there's someone that the list is going to start with, and it would be a long list, LaFonso's at the top.
Okay, thank you for that, and you gave me a really, really nice segue because Ryan Fitzpatrick was asked on X, whether I don't know if it was today or the day before, he was asked if you were going to start a football team, you played on 9 different teams, who would you start the team with? And his response was Fred Jackson.
Wow.
Of all people.
Wow.
For you, who was your favorite Bill growing up? And maybe who, if you were going to start a team, let's just say with a Bill, for instance, who do you think you'd start it with?
Ooh, boy, oh boy. Well, so you have to remember. I mean, I can remember having like a I made him a Joe Ferguson doll, but we had a doll where you could, put the stickers on the uniform numbers and stuff. So I had Joe Ferguson as a kid. I've got a picture of me wearing a Bills O.J. Simpson jersey, but really, obviously, my teen years, high school, college years are Kelly, Reed, Thurman, Bruce Smith. I mean, those were my guys. And I don't know that there was one that I loved more than another. I had a Jim Kelly and Bruce Smith jersey. If you're starting a team, Boy, I mean, here, how about this? Here's my answer, Bull. It's not going to be a player. If you're starting a team, I want Marv Levy on the
There you go.
sidelines. I can't imagine that there's a better, smarter individual, more caring individual, better coach, better leader than Marv Levy. So that would be my answer.
That's a great one, and I know Bills fans will appreciate it entirely. So we're talking and we're recording this before you go on air a little bit later this evening. So I'm assuming from here you'll go right into hair and makeup for how long?
It's the bulk of the evening, Bull. Let's be honest. Uh, so hair is the Casey original. I leave the house with this bulletproof hair, and we had a windy, cold day here in Connecticut. This is au natural. And I do my own makeup after COVID. We did this whole deal here, so I just said I'm doing my own. So that might explain some things on air in a good or bad way. I don't know, but it's relatively quick. I don't spend a ton of time in the chair, to be totally honest.
How much research do you do going in for every show
Uh,
that you have to do? I mean, I'm sure, yeah, and like you said, you're kind of bouncing. You'll do baseball tonight, then you'll go into college football, college basketball. You do Sports Center, and I know you have a massive research team, obviously, and a great support staff. But I know, knowing guys like you don't like to necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my guess is that you like to really know what's happening. You don't like to be surprised. You really want to know what you're going into before you get there.
um, I probably would not have brought that up, but since you did, there's no question. I take a tremendous amount of pride in either knowing the content, or if we're having an Appalachian State James Madison game, I will acknowledge that I am not as dialed in on those teams on my own as I am the other top 40 college football teams in the country. But I damn sure will do my homework on those teams and know what I have to know, because you never know. Here's a quick little aside. I'm doing studio one time with Danny Manning, college basketball, right? It's in middle of COVID. Danny and I are on the set. Danny, another one of the nicest, best dudes. 20 minutes before a Kentucky-Florida game, producer says in our ear, Bob Wischusen and Dick Vitale, their broadcast kits are down. They're at home. They're not at the game. They're calling the game. They're down. We need you guys to call the game. 20 minutes before the game.
Wow.
Boom, you got to go. You got to go off what you know. And I would normally spend days doing my homework on that. I spent 20, hey, print me up a roster, get me some stats, but do the game. The point is, I was able to do it, I think, because I knew the storylines. I knew what was going on, and I had a great teammate with me that night. I spend so much time here in the building when I'm preparing for a show. My laptop is open 7 days a week this time of year, writing, researching, um, formulating ideas. I will never brag about anything that I do on the air, but I will brag about the work that I put in, because it's a lot. And I take great pride in that. And I hope it's a differentiator. I don't know that you can do it any other way. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. You better know what you're talking about for moments like when someone's kit goes down and you got to call a game. So again, if there's something that I will beat my chest about, it's how hard I prepare.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone that I've ever met that's in our industry is kind of the same way. Because it's really hard to BS your way through really knowledgeable sports people that are watching what you do, and ultimately the sports leader in terms of multimedia. So yeah, the smart sports people, or even the casually smart sports people, will know when you don't know, right? So yeah, that's a great lesson for everybody that's looking to get into the business, for sure. And when they watch you and they see what you do, and as well as you do it, they know why. Hey man, I'm taking you away from your prep for baseball tonight. So you go and get at it. Everyone in Buffalo is so happy that you could do this. We really, really appreciate you so much. Let's catch up maybe a little bit closer to the playoffs, or somewhere. I know holidays are tough. You got your family, I got mine. It is what it is. But if we can find a way to squeeze you in sometime in the next 6 to 8 weeks, let's do that. And the Bills will be closer, hopefully, to a playoff, maybe another division title, and NBA and hockey and college and everything that everybody does in sports. We're going to be talking about. So we can't wait to have you back again. But in the interim, can't thank you enough, man. Really appreciate you.
Well, it's great to be on. Stay on top of me. Anytime you need me, I'd love to join you. Thanks so much for having me.
And on behalf of Bills Mafia, thanks for waving the flag up in Patriot country. It's got to be tough.
You know what? I wear it with a badge, man. You know what? I'm like the guy in the middle of the storm holding the flag up there. So I love hearing from Bills fans on social media, and let's go win a Super Bowl this year.
Speaking of social media, last thing, throw out all your handles so people can follow if they haven't yet.
God, what am I on X? I think I'm at Kev Connors. ESPN. I don't even know. You know what? What am I on social media here? I got to check both. I am at Kev Connors ESPN on X, and I'm a similar thing on Instagram. Anytime you want to hit me up and engage, I'd love to talk.
Awesome, man. Thanks again. Go prepare for baseball tonight, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Bull. Thank you for having me.